Title: My 28F husband, 32M, has a locked memory box in the basement. I finally cracked it, and I don't think the woman in the photos is dead. I think she's me. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. I'm typing this from my car 3 blocks away from my house. I don't know if I can ever go back. I've been married to Simon for 4 years. If you asked anyone in our small town about us, they'd tell you we're the gold standard. Simon is a reconstructive surgeon, brilliant, soft-spoken, and incredibly attentive. He met me when I was at my lowest point, recovering from a massive car accident that left me with retrograde amnesia and a face that needed months of his professional artistry to repair. He didn't just fix my bones, he saved my soul. He told me who I was when I couldn't remember my own middle name. He showed me photos of our early dating days, told me stories about how we met at a gallery in Soho, and surrounded me with a life that felt like a warm silk blanket. For 4 years, I've lived in this beautiful, curated reality. Our house is a minimalist masterpiece. Lots of glass, white marble, and silence. Simon likes order. He likes things just so. And because I felt I owed him my life, I never questioned the small rules. I didn't question why we never visited my hometown. I didn't question why I had no living relatives. Simon was my everything. My husband, my doctor, my entire history. The red flag. It started with a smell. Not a bad one. Just familiar in a way that made my skin crawl. Simon has a locked room in the basement. He calls it his archive. Medical journals, old case files, and sentimental things from before the accident that might trigger a relapse. He told me early on that looking into my past too quickly could cause a psychological break. I trusted the doctor. But yesterday, Simon left for a 3-day conference in Boston. He forgot to double bolt the archive door. I was doing laundry when I noticed the heavy oak door was slightly ajar. My heart started thumping against my ribs like a trapped bird. I shouldn't have gone in. I know that now. I should have just kept walking to the dryer. But the curiosity wasn't just a whim, it was a physical ache. The room was freezing. It smelled like cedar and antiseptic. In the corner sat a heavy steel memory box with my name, Elena, embossed on a silver plate. I've spent 4 years trying to remember Elena. I sat on the cold floor and spent 2 hours trying different combinations. I tried our wedding date. Nothing. I tried the date of my accident. Nothing. Finally, I tried the date Simon found me in the hospital records. Click. The rabbit hole. The lid creaked open. Inside weren't just mementos. There were medical files. Detailed. Handwritten logs in Simon's precise script. I picked up a stack of Polaroids tied with a black ribbon. The first photo was of a woman. She looked exactly like me. Same jawline. Same eyes. Same slight mole near the collarbone. But the date on the back was from 10 years ago, 6 years before I even met Simon. I flipped through them. The woman in the photos was at a park. She was at a grocery store. She was sleeping in a bed that looked suspiciously like the one I slept in last night. These weren't dating photos. They were surveillance shots. High zoom, grainy, taken from a distance. Then I found the identity file. There was a birth certificate for a woman named Claire. Not Elena. Claire. Next to it was a newspaper clipping about a disappearance from a city 3 states away. The woman in the clipping had my face. But according to the article, Claire had been missing for 5 years before my accident. I started shaking so hard the papers blurred. I dug deeper. At the bottom of the box was a digital recorder. I hit play. Simon's voice came through the tiny speaker, sounding younger, more clinical. Subject shows 80% facial reconstruction success. Amnesia is holding steady due to the pharmacological cocktail. She believes the Soho story. She reacted to the name Elena with a 0.4-second delay, but corrected herself. The molding of the new persona is nearly complete. I have finally created the perfect version of her. My breath hitched. I wasn't just his wife. I was a project. I heard a noise upstairs. The front door. The electronic chime that signals someone has entered. Simon wasn't supposed to be home for 2 more days. Elena? Are you downstairs, sweetheart? His voice was calm. Too calm. I shoved the photos into my sweater, scrambled out of the room, and managed to slip out through the garage side door just as I heard his footsteps hit the basement stairs. I'm in my car now. I have no money, no ID that isn't Elena, and the man who literally built my face is currently texting me. I saw you left the basement door open, honey. We need to talk about your recovery. Update 1. The pharmacoprison and the mirrors lie. I didn't go home. I couldn't. But as I sat in that Starbucks parking lot, the medicine Simon mentioned started to make my head swim. My vision began to blur at the edges, and a familiar, crushing fatigue settled into my bones. That's when it hit me. The pharmacological cocktail from the recording. The vitamins he gave me every morning. The nerve tonics he insisted I take before bed. They weren't for my recovery. They were for my submission. I was crashing, and I realized I was physically addicted to whatever he had been feeding me for 4 years. I forced myself to drive. I ended up at a cheap, hourly motel on the edge of the county, paying in cash I'd stashed in the glove box for emergencies. The investigation. Safe behind a bolted door, I spread the stolen files across the stained bedspread. I looked at the birth certificate for Claire and the disappearance clipping. Claire was a concert cellist. She had a life, a family, a soul. I looked at my hands. I've never touched a cello in the 4 years I've been Elena. Simon told me I hated music because it triggered my migraines. Then I found the most horrifying part of the file, a series of surgical sketches. They weren't just reconstructive. They were comparative. On the left was a photo of a woman I didn't recognize, someone older with sharp, regal features. On the right was my face, with arrows indicating where Simon had shaved down my jaw, lifted my brow, and altered the shape of my nose to match hers. He didn't fix my face after an accident. He remodeled me to look like someone else. A woman named Elena, the real Elena. I Googled Simon Vance plus Elena. It took hours of digging through archived news from a decade ago. Finally, I found it. Elena Vance, Simon's first wife. She died in a house fire 10 years ago. The photos of her were eerie. Looking at her was like looking into a mirror that showed a ghost. He didn't love me. He was just using Claire's body as a canvas to bring his dead wife back to life. The gaslighting. My phone buzzed. A video call. Against my better judgment, I answered. Simon's face filled the screen. He was sitting in our kitchen, sipping tea. He looked disappointed, like a father whose child had broken a vase. Claire, he said. I froze. He used the name. You think you found the truth, don't you? He leaned closer to the camera. You think I'm the villain. But ask yourself, Claire, where was your family when you disappeared? Why didn't anyone come for you? I found you in that wreckage. You were a broken, discarded thing. I gave you beauty. I gave you a name. I gave you a life where you are cherished. You kidnapped me. I screamed into the phone, my voice cracking. I saved you, he corrected, his voice dropping to a low, chilling whisper. And right now, your heart rate is climbing, isn't it? Your tremors are starting. You need your stabilizer, Claire. The withdrawal from the cocktail. It isn't pretty. It causes seizures, respiratory failure. You won't make it through the night in that motel room. He paused, a small, cruel smile playing on his lips. Check your GPS, sweetheart. I didn't just find you. I own you. I've known where you were since the moment you put the car in drive. I looked at the motel window. A black SUV, the same one from the archive photos, was pulling into the parking lot. Update 2. The ghost in the mirror and the cold reset. I dropped the phone onto the motel bed like it was made of live embers. The black SUV moved like a shark through the parking lot, its headlights cutting through the grime of my window, illuminating the scattered photos of a life that wasn't mine. He knew. Of course he knew. Simon wasn't just a surgeon. He was an architect.